So, good morning, everybody. So it's Wednesday, July 8th at 10 a.m. talking about the ESSER fund. So like every week, except for last week, which we took off. So I think everybody comes in muted. So if you leave yourself that way, that would be preferential. And then if you have any comments or questions, you can either raise your hand and we will follow that, or you can put something in the chat. We do have, I believe I saw Shelly, and then I saw ESCA, which I'm not. I see a couple of other department people on here as well. So I actually hadn't had anything planned, but I got an email from one of you, and the person is on. So I guess we can go over these questions and see what people are thinking. Some of them are easier to answer than others. I haven't actually. I've read through it quickly, but so I think these are things that each of you will kind of be seeing. As you know, as long as you're spending your money in this fashion, which I think will be pretty common, even if it's not within this fund, you'll see similar within the general fund if you're using general fund money for this purpose. So I think these are some good questions to go over. I'm not going to do them in order because I'll do the ones that I can answer fairly easily out of order. So one of the questions is, so if you're purchasing IT devices, so probably we're talking laptops or tablets for the students, hotspots if they need, or if you're paying for internet connectivity in some form or fashion, to talk more generally. Do those costs have to be broken out by cost center to the school level until you actually use them? You aren't sure what building they would benefit. So at least with this is a little bit easier, and I would say because so you would be breaking it out by building if you know that internet hotspot is going to the cost is going to benefit a student, and so and that's because you would then be putting it into regular instruction at that point. You're using the program 1100 or 1200 or some of the subsets of those codes. If you once you know it's being used for regular instruction, then you would code it to that you know, to the cost center associated to where that student is. If and I realize when you're buying these, you know you're buying them to provide a student in the future connectivity, but you may not, you know, so you may not know exactly what it is. So in that case, if you want to, you could put it in instructional technology, which doesn't require you, you know, which gives you a little bit more flexibility. Otherwise, if you do want it to show up in 1100 or 1200, you don't have to pick a school building, but you will have to at least pick either 950 or 990. And so that's a bit of the drawback to if you want to put it into the regular instruction, you know, then you have to make that choice. You have to at least make that level of choice. Whereas I think instructional technology provides you more flexibility. So that's kind of, and that's just the limitations of the coding. So, so I'll just take them in reverse order because now they started in the bottom. So special education is going to use some money for additional testing for students. Do these need to be coded to each school for the student being tested? So I'm assuming that that's probably either going to be could be, I suppose, an assessment to see um, whether that be a speech assessment, a psychological assessment, or some other type of assessment. Again, you do have to, just because you're using those student function codes, or student service function codes, you're going to have to at least pick 990 or 950 on the budgeting side. And you can play that out again on your actuals, um, and hopefully, depending on the size of your district and how you do things, maybe you can get it down to the school level. I'm not. I'm certainly not going to be that picky. I'll have Denise not be that picky when she's looking at it to require that to be down to the school level, because I know a lot of this you're going to be doing. You're making a good faith estimate at to what you're going to be doing, and where things are certainly going to be very much in flux in the coming year. What you plan on may not be your actual. You may spend that amount of money for that type of service, but you may not spend it where you initially thought you're going to spend it. So I'm not going to be as we'll be a little bit more generous with using the 950 and 990 for this, because a lot of this will certainly be more on the fly than normal. So just keep in mind as you make these best guesses that you can, when it comes to the actuals, we then do have to use all of this data when we do the ESSA dashboard, the per pupil spending. And so if you just put it at 950, but you have 4 elementary school buildings, it's going to get proportioned out by your student population. That may not be a huge deal for you locally, but just keep that in the back of your mind, that that's how it's going to get proportioned out after, when we do calculate the per pupil spending for the ESSA dashboard. So I'll get to your question in just a minute, Kim. I'm going to go through the rest of these, though they're fairly. I'm going to go up to the first one. So they intend to hire 1 year only social worker and nurse to deal with testing, emotional issues. The codes say school level, but both of these will be plug and play, meaning they will go where where they're needed. Do we have to apportion them on a percentage of each school level building? And again, where these are student services, it's going to be the same answer that you can certainly budget at the 950, 990 level. If you want to leave it at that level, again, that's fine. I'm not going to have any heartache over districts leaving it for, especially for this fund, leaving it at the 950 and 990 level. So then there's a question around supplies, so masks, shields, and so again, so for the students, again, it'll be the same answer. We're do it to 950, 990. Remember, your staff will go into, I believe it's function 2575, which was a correction for some school districts. I had given a different function code, but then digging more into the coding handbook, I found a better place to code things. So when you code it to the 2575, that's going to require for your staff, that's going to require it to be at 900, at cost center 900 anyways, which will just be district wide. So that actually won't go to school level in the end anyways. So then we do have a question for PPE for staff and students that we're using during the summer. I've been asked by the superintendent not to use these funds for PPE equipment. He stated we are being furnished by the state for these. However, I thought this was for school starting in September. Um, so we so um, so there is a state purchase going on, and I know I got a question the day after the announcement came out, the priority notice came out, that people wanted to ensure that this was that the PPE was being purchased by the state and would be free to the school. So I was able to confirm that with the team that's leading that up. So that it is at no cost to you. So you wouldn't have to necessarily worry about where to code that. So as far as, so I think that kind of answers your question, Kim, that yes, we are. So did you have an additional portion to that, Kim?
I do. Okay. So this is my question really. So we have summer school. We're here at school. We've got about 40 kids here. We're trying to do actually like a pre-test to see what it would be like come September.
Yep.
You know, we've got the buses, we got the kids all staggered. They all have, we went out and bought like 7,500 disposable masks. We've bought shields. We've bought um, plexiglass to go in between tables so that I can get 10 kids in a room. And so I bought all this equipment. I spent about $9,000, okay, for all the equipment just for summer school. So this is just for summer school so that we can have summer school here. And then the balance of the funds that we had was for computers if we have to do remote learning, especially with the middle school end. So that basically used up all my funds.
Okay.
And so, I mean, I was going to code like all this PP equipment for summer school because it's specifically it's just enough equipment to get us through summer school.
Yeah.
Is that, I mean, technically, shouldn't I put it towards that? Because I did have this conversation with John that, because he went to that superintendent's meeting and they told him, oh, we're going to supply you all this. I said, yes, that's for September. That's not, we need it for now. If we are going to have summer school here,
Right.
we have to have this equipment here before we go. So I need to use this money to buy that equipment so that we can have summer school. And so far it's working really well, knock on
Yep.
wood, but we also only have like 40 kids, so it's easier to manage.
Right.
So I guess I just wanted to confirm for myself, I can use these funds for the PPE equipment and I would be using the summer school codes, correct?
Well, so you'll, so are,
Multi-loaded question, eh?
well, no, so you're talking about using when you say the summer school codes, you're talking about the program code.
Correct.
And but I might have missed this in what you said. You want to know about using some of the ESSER funds for it, but your superintendent said not to use some of it.
Well, he didn't think that because he was under the assumption that the state had all this stuff ready to go. And I said, no, they don't. And because if we did, we would have had it by now. But if we were going to actually have the kids come here for summer school, we need to we already bought it.
Yeah.
And I allocated, I haven't invoiced it yet, but I've allocated all for the ESSERF funds, which he was okay with because he realized that the state was not going to supply us with PPE equipment for summer school to cover summer school.
Right. And so first, I don't 100% know the timing of the when the PPE will come in. I can ask Jonathan about that and talk about that tomorrow during the business manager. We have a couple of other topics we're going to do as well, but so there is a timing issue, which I can so I can get more information about that.
Yeah,
There's no problem in using the ESSER funds for PPE, so that is an allowable use of the funds.
okay. Yeah,
So you would need to have that in your application, though.
we
Um,
do. We
okay,
did. We did the application, it's all been approved, and we basically separated it for PPE equipment and for computers.
yeah, yeah. So
That
there's
made,
no problem in using the PPE. Now, I mean, so PPP itself will go into the function 21. I'm going to say into the student health function code, and I can't. I think it's 2130, but I'm not 100% sure that that's 2130.
yes, it is.
Okay.
That's for the nurse. That's under the nurse.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Um, so I'm not. Some of those codes you can then use with summer school versus putting it with over in program overhead. Um, some of them you can't though. I mean,
Okay.
and where I don't foresee there being a need that you need to put it into the actual summer school program code
Okay.
necessarily.
So
Um,
basically, I just have shields, mask, and the plexiglass
yeah.
dividers for for instruction.
Okay.
So, I mean, I could put the instruction, the plexiglass under, instruction supplies, and I could put the rest of the stuff under the nursing.
So
You, you know,
what's the plexiglass being used for?
so we have, because we don't have individual tables for all the students,
Oh, okay.
we bought these, like, they're like plexiglass dividers, so they stand up on the table.
Yep.
And so that way we still can get two kids at a table, but they're separated by that
Okay.
plexiglass.
Yep.
So, just to keep the social distancing going.
Right. So
And
you're teaching it. You're treating it kind of like classroom furniture.
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And I don't see any issue. It's an attachment onto the furniture, so I don't see any issue with kind of classifying it that way.
Okay. Thank you, Tyler.
Um, you're welcome. So Carolyn is asking, you're purchasing PPE, but you don't necessarily know the breakdown for students versus staff. So I think, I mean, so for budgeting, I mean, you're just gonna have to make your best guess possible. And then, so because you are having to put it into two different function codes, you'll have to, track it as best you can. I mean, so put in a reasonable effort. So whatever reasonable happens to be for your school district, understanding that different school districts have different available staffing. Um, do a reasonable level of effort on trying to figure out how much is going for staff versus how much is being used for students, and then make that breakout based on that. I again, I mean, I understand you're buying probably, I don't know whether it's 10,000 or $50,000 worth of PPE, or if it's even more than that. And so trying to track where every individual piece of PPE goes isn't necessarily reasonable. Um, do the best that you can in trying to do that. Did you have it?
Tyler,
Yep.
so you had mentioned that there is, in addition to the coding for health supplies for students, there's a code for adult health supplies
Yep.
in a previous meeting. So
Yep.
the issue that's still the same cost center, right?
Well, so for students, because you're going to use function 2130, it's going to force you to then choose between 950 and 990. But for staff, because you would use 20, I think it's the 2575. That's going to force you to use cost center 900 for your staff.
Which cost center is, I'm
So
sorry, what was that? What was the second function code?
uh, Well, hold on. Let me see if I can make sure I'm handing out as I say it repeatedly. Um, I can find it fairly quickly here.
While you're looking at that, so the issue I have is we're buying, of course, masks and shields and what have you. I don't know who is going to need a shield.
Right.
And I don't know if it'll be an adult or a kid or a special ed kid, or I guess it doesn't matter if it's special ed if we're coding all the supplies for the kids under health.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's where you're gonna have to, I you're gonna have to make a best estimate that's possible. Um,
Okay.
where it does go under, and so it is function 2575 for your adults. Um, and I realize, I mean, a lot of this you're probably going to be making um, some guesses.
So
As
that's still under student and staff support?
nope,
The
so
25.
this is actually, so 2575 falls within central services.
Oh,
So 2570 in general is personnel services. So that's recruitment, supervision, personal information, non-instructional personnel training, health services, and other personnel services. Um, so it's actually, so 2579 other personnel would be where if you pay for like retiree health insurance, that would go under that 2579. So it's kind of 2575 is more your personnel costs in
so
general.
retiree group life insurance would go under there too, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's news to me. Okay.
Well, so it's for somebody who's actually already, if you have people who are already retired and you're paying their life insurance costs.
Right.
If you have somebody who's still employed with you, then you would count it as a benefit.
Right, understood.
Yeah.
Yeah, for PLD employees, once they retire, we're obligated to continue to pay for their single
Oh,
GLI. Yeah.
okay. Yep. So there's a code for that.
What was that code again? Sorry.
2579.
2579. There's a code
Yeah,
for everything, isn't it?
there is. If you if you want to read the whole handbook,
Oh,
um, but so yeah, I mean, I realize again, I realize with the PPE, you're making some guesses as to what's occurring, because I understand there's no way to track um, every single piece of equipment. So just like with the other questions around, oh well, we're buying devices for students, but we're buying them up front without actually knowing which student is going to get it, and then to try to track afterwards. You hand a kid you hand the kid a device, and I don't know whether somebody has to sign for that or whatnot, but then going back and trying to take that device and say, okay, how much did this device cost, and then assigning that to a single cost center, and then if you're doing that for a few hundred devices, could get a bit overwhelming. And for PPE, that would obviously be even worse, as you have people, you know, if you're buying a lot of face shields and a lot of masks, so you could be buying a couple thousand masks and then trying to track where each individual one goes is would be a bit daunting. So I'm
thank you,
not,
Tyler.
yeah, make your best guess as you can. Um, and it's just the fact that we do have to have you make some guess at to it, um, so that we have some place to code it. And just realizing the limitations of the coding, and it's these breakouts aren't designed that great for emergencies as like this one. So Miranda is asking, discussing the IFR versus equitable services. So no, Miranda, we don't have, um, um, that is ongoing, and so we can't really discuss it at this point in time. And so I do have to kind of leave it at that. So. I do want to. So Heather, you can. You know, I mean, I'll certainly, you know, you can run it through me and I mean, and but I realize like I mean, to a point you're definitely you're guessing. Um, so while. So keep writing in questions, or if somebody wants, you know, needs to raise their hand to talk, please talk. And I'm going to bring up. I'm going to throw. Actually, so I'm going to throw it out as a question. Has how of you the districts that bill Maine Care, have any of you heard of the Provider Relief Fund? So given the level of silence on that, I'm going to throw, let's see if I can get this to come up in here. So there is a separate relief fund for Maine Care providers. It is done directly through the federal government. So it's nothing that you apply for through the department or through DHHS. It's done directly with the feds. And if I can find it, I'm going to put it up on the Business Manager listserv as well. But so let's see. So there was an announcement on July. So there's a July 20th application deadline. Maine Care providers have until July 20th to apply for the CARES Act Provider Relief Fund Medicaid distribution, which is intended to support Medicaid providers who have experienced revenue losses and or increased costs during the COVID-19 pandemic. CMS has indicated that it has received a lower than expected volume of applications thus far. We highly encourage providers to apply for this funding. Interested providers should begin their application process now in order to meet the deadline. Who can apply? To qualify to receive payment through the Provider Relief Fund, the following criteria must be met. Provider has not received payment from the original 50 billion general distribution note provide. And that should be a separate distribution. Providers who received FEMA, Paycheck Protection Program, or targeted distribution funds can qualify. Providers has billed Medicaid CHIP for services between January 1, 2018 and December 31, 2019. Provider has filed a federal income tax return for FY 17, 18, or 19, or is exempt from filing a report. Provider has provided patient care after January 31st, 2020. Provider has not stopped delivering patient care directly or indirectly. Provider has gross receipts or sales from providing care reported on Form 1040. And then there's information on how to apply. So again, I'll put that up into the Business Manager listserv as well. And if anybody wants, anybody that doesn't have access to that, because I know there's some non-business managers on this call, if you want the information, just let me know, and I can send it to you directly as well. But I will put it up on the Business Manager listserv after this call. I actually meant to do it this morning and just haven't had a chance. I don't have information beyond that, so all I have is this email that I got from our contact at DHHS, sending it to us. So I don't know a lot about it. I just know it's available. So, does anybody have any other questions, comments, concerns? So I'll give you just a moment if you want to put anything in the chat.
Hi, Tyler. Can you hear me?
Hi. Yep.
Okay. Sorry, I was having an issue with my microphone.
Okay.
So I just wanted to clarify, because I didn't want to be confused, and I felt like I was still a little bit confused. The
Okay.
PPP for students and staff all go under central services because it's health?
Nope. So for students, you're going to put it to, there's a student health function code, which is 2130. For staff, you're going to put it in 2575.
2020.
So that's staff health is essentially is what that comes out, or personnel health.
What was staff? 21 what?
2575.
2575.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for.
Yep. No problem. So seeing nothing else, thank everybody for coming again today. And so business managers, we are going to meet tomorrow. I believe we're going to go over some minimum teacher salary information. We can talk about the PPP state purchases. I'm just trying to gauge after the priority notice came out, are there any additional questions? So if you have some, you can email them to me ahead of time, or just be prepared to give them to me then. I may or may not be able to answer it, but if there is enough feeling that we need to have somebody from that team come on the call, we'll certainly have them come on. But if people feel pretty comfortable with the information that was provided in the priority notice, then we can kind of leave it at that. And then we'll have, I think there's a couple of other small topics that we'll go over. But so the bulk of the meeting, I think we're going to talk about minimum teacher salary and some, just some issues as far as how, the FTEs and salaries, some issues that Paul has seen in going through that data. And hopefully we can provide a little bit of clarification on how to enter those staff. So, so hope to see business managers there tomorrow. And otherwise we'll, we should have a meeting again next week for the ESSERF fund. So thanks everyone.